When Anakin went to Mortis, the sun showed him a vision of his future as Darth Vader. The vision included death, suffering, pain, and resulted in Anakin turning to the dark side temporarily on Mortis. The father eventually erased his memory of the vision, but what if Anakin returned home and then remembered his vision of Vader? Would he turn to the dark side? Would the Jedi be able to save him? How would the galaxy be different? Let's take a look at all of it in today's Star Wars story. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka returned to the Jedi Temple after investigating a mysterious frequency in space. To the three Jedi, the frequency had resulted in one of the most unbelievable sequences ever. A planet dedicated to maintaining the Force, the Father, the Son, the Daughter, all of them dead thanks in large part to Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One. The memories of this place were rather vague, and they couldn't be sure it was entirely real after Rex had told them that they were gone only for a moment. Nevertheless, the trio presented their findings to the Jedi Council. There had been mentions of things like this for Yoda throughout his life, but he'd never seen anything like it, and ultimately, everyone on the council agreed that this had to be some sort of vision brought on to the Jedi by the Force, or worse, the dark side for some reason. And after the council session ended, the three Jedi went their separate ways for some much-needed rest. Anakin went to his quarters in the Jedi Temple to think. He felt like he was losing his mind a bit after all of this. And one thing, he was really sticking with him about it all. He had awoken next to the Father at one point, and the Father told Anakin that he had erased memories of Anakin's future, something he just could not be allowed to see. But Anakin could still feel those lingering memories. He could still feel the darkness of those memories. The Father had tried to erase them completely, but perhaps in his dying days, he couldn't erase them from the most powerful Chosen One. Anakin finally laid down in his small Jedi room, trying to fall asleep. The memories that were erased were trying to claw their way out at him. Anakin could feel them, but a moment later, he went into a meditative sleep, putting his mind at peace. But in his sleep, Anakin unlocked the vision from Mortis, and he saw it all. In rapid fashion, Obi-Wan standing above Padme as she screamed, a man yelling, "The Force will be strong with you," a robed man blasting lightning at Yoda, Jedi younglings cowering in fear at a lightsaber, Anakin's lightsaber, Padme yelling, "Anakin, please," and choking, Obi-Wan yelling, "You are the Chosen One, you are my brother Anakin," and crying at him, being told that he would become a powerful Sith. He watched Alderaan explode, feeling heat, yelling, "I hate you," and a dark presence, robotic breathing, a dark mask. It was him. Anakin jolted awake. He was in a cold sweat. Hours had passed in his sleep, but it felt like barely a second. And the images, all of the images were still in his mind. Padme choking, fighting Obi-Wan, killing younglings, a torturous suit. This could not be what his future entails. And in the middle of the night, Yoda still meditated. He was trying to make sense of what Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka had told the Council. Had it all been real, or was it just a vision? And Anakin claimed he learned the truth, that he was the Chosen One. In meditation now, Yoda opened his eyes as he felt great turmoil in the temple. Anakin, he thought. And Yoda heard the voice of Qui-Gon, which he'd heard when Anakin was angry on Tatooine before the Clone Wars. It only said to Yoda now, "Go to him," and disappeared once again. So Yoda went to Anakin. Anakin was shaking in his room. He was looking from his hands to his lightsaber, then to his hands to the window where he imagined Padme. Could these same hands kill younglings, choke Padme, fight Obi-Wan, turn to the dark side? Anakin needed guidance, but no one understood him. No one understood what he could become. And as Anakin felt like he was about to go insane, a gentle knock on his door was heard. A simple stick tapping at the door. Anakin came to, realizing who this was, and he invited Yoda in, and in he came, with a small smile on his face. Anakin tried to force his own smile, but for once he could not. He hadn't even thought to ask why Yoda was here, before Yoda sat down on the opposite side of the room. The wise Jedi Master studied Anakin for a moment, felt his presence in the Force. It was disturbed, and Yoda asked him if he had a vision, if he remembered more from his time with the Father. Yoda offered more compassion right now in this moment than ever before. Few Jedi had gone through or experienced the same amount of power as Yoda, so he knew what this burden could be like. But Yoda had 900 years of experience to deal with this power, with the dark side, while he understood that Anakin was still so young, didn't know how to deal with this power, with this pressure of being the chosen one, and Yoda knew he had often failed to be with the young Skywalker. And now Anakin felt the compassion. It was different than what he usually got from the Council, and it was truly so refreshing for him. So Anakin told Yoda about the vision, about the darkness he perceived. Anakin explained that although he was the chosen one, he saw his future as nothing but darkness, pain for everyone and everything that he loved, and he could not live with himself, knowing he was capable of these things. Yoda studied Anakin in silence, remembering the first time he laid eyes on the boy, the pain he felt inside of Anakin, the sadness for the attachments he created and would create throughout his life as a Jedi. And Yoda knew Anakin was different than all the Jedi. But now, perhaps the Jedi needed something different, thought Yoda. Anakin was the chosen one, and Yoda decided right now he would dedicate much more time to guiding the boy, to change his destiny from the darkness to the light. Yoda asked Anakin if he wished to be a Jedi Master, to which Anakin quickly looked up, replied, saying it would be his greatest honor. Yoda smiled, and he told Anakin that before becoming a Master, he must take a step backwards. Yoda offered for Anakin to become his Padawan, as they were perhaps the two most powerful Jedi in the Temple, but Anakin had so much to learn. Yoda told Anakin that he had dealt with the pull of the dark side, and he would teach Anakin to fulfill the prophecy. Though he'd been promoted to Jedi Knight, Yoda was willing to take him right now and teach him everything he knew about the Force. Anakin sat up straight with a new determined look on his face. He said that he would accept his new place as Padawan to prevent these visions from coming true. But if Anakin was to pursue this knowledge, he knew there could not be secrets between him and his new master. Yoda had to know about Anakin's greatest attachment if he was to tell Yoda and teach Yoda, and if Yoda were to teach him about how to forego attachments. Upon hearing this, Yoda looked to the ground, as if both disappointed and sad he didn't figure this out. The wise Grand Master knew Anakin and Padme were close. But married? And Yoda knew forcing Anakin to let go of Padme right now would possibly result in the visions coming true and the suffering of trillions across the galaxy. That wasn't worth putting the Jedi Code in the way. So instead, Yoda embraced it as just another challenge for now, so long as Anakin could answer this question. "In your mind, how does one balance the Force?" Yoda asked. And Anakin didn't hesitate before saying, "By eradicating the darkness, so only the light can prevail." Anakin saw what happened on Mortis when the dark side was balanced evenly with the light. It couldn't help itself from taking over. It needed to kill the light. So Anakin understood there was no balance with the darkness. Only the light could bring peace. And with that answer, Yoda took Anakin as his Padawan. In the meantime, Ahsoka was promoted to Jedi Knight, but in battle, her and Obi-Wan would still go together for the time being. Ahsoka had much to learn, but had proven herself extremely capable in battle and with the Force. She would take over commanding the 501st for the time being, while Anakin removed himself from the war. He hadn't truly realized it, but the Clone Wars were consuming him, feeding his hunger for power, for action, but they were also pulling him from everything he loved. His wife, the peace in the Republic, and his true self had all been compromised. And so for the next couple months, Yoda and Anakin would train together. This was the most time the two had ever spent together, and Yoda thought Anakin was a fascinating student. He was learning from training Dooku, who had fallen to the dark side, that not every Jedi should be trained in the same way. In Anakin's case especially, he needed a genuine connection with his master. Though it went against Yoda's idea of the Jedi Code, he began to allow himself to form a true attachment to Anakin, for the Chosen One. One day after training, a day where Yoda began teaching Anakin about Force healing by giving someone else midichlorians through the Force, Anakin was called into Palpatine's office. It had been a long while since the two had spoken, and Anakin was caught up in his new training. And when he walked in, Palpatine asked him to sit. Palpatine had heard by now that Anakin was removed temporarily from the war to focus on training with Master Yoda. This disturbed Palpatine to his core, especially as he learned just how close the two were becoming. Palpatine could sense the turmoil and the sadness fading from Anakin as Yoda taught him how to combat the darkness. But Palpatine thought he could still salvage this. Once Anakin was seated, Palpatine told him that the Republic was losing ground in the war, and he asked Anakin to jump back in. Palpatine expected Anakin to be a little bit excited at the notion of getting back on the battlefront, but instead, there was conflict. Anakin had grown to like being away from the fighting, and instead focus on growing his abilities, his power in the light side, while being able to see his wife every day. His wife that Yoda knew about and kept secret from the Jedi until the time was right. But Anakin said he would slowly begin to reinsert himself back into the war, as he would do his duty to the Republic. And so he left to go find Master Yoda. As Anakin left, Palpatine scowled as he watched him go. Yoda had seemingly taken his spot as Master of Skywalker. He had to find out for sure, once and for all, if Skywalker could be turned. And soon, he would. Anakin walked back to his speeder, frustrated with the Senate, frustrated with the Chancellor. The Jedi were not meant to be generals. As Yoda once said, war does not make one great, but he would do his duty in the war, next to his new master. And Yoda was also disappointed with the news, but said he would go into battle with Anakin, wherever they were assigned. And over the next few months, Anakin and Yoda would continue their training, with Yoda teaching Anakin in battle. Anakin was becoming extremely powerful, but more importantly, learning to balance his emotions with his growing power. But Anakin also taught Yoda to let go of some of his rigid ways, allowing Yoda to be more loose and open to his power. The two of them helped to turn the tide of the Clone Wars back in the favor of the Republic, along with Kenobi and Ahsoka leading the 501st and the 212th. From Coruscant, Palpatine was growing increasingly angry with Anakin, Yoda, and the rest of the Jedi. He needed to execute his plan to test who Anakin really was deep down. So he put the invasion of Coruscant into place, instructing General Grievous to capture him aboard the Invisible Hand. The invasion was swift, with an overwhelming Separatist fleet arriving above the planet. Yoda and Anakin were helping out on Kashyyyk and had nearly driven the Separatists away when Mace Windu hailed them about the invasion. Yoda and Anakin quickly made their way back to Coruscant to rescue the Chancellor. Meanwhile, on Mandalore, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka had just arrested Maul with the help of Bo-Katan when they received the signal. They too made their way to Coruscant to help, and upon arrival, the 4 Jedi starfighters synced up with Anakin, Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka, making their way to the Invisible Hand to save the Chancellor from Dooku and Grievous. Anakin was far and away the greatest pilot here, but over time, through the years, and now the months, he'd taught Yoda a few things, as well as Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. Together, the 4 of them weaved through clumps of droid fighters, and the 4 Jedi pilots soared through the raging battle, their synergy and connection to the Force becoming evident. Through unspoken communication and shared instincts, they coordinated efforts to overcome the Separatist defenses. They exploited openings in the enemy lines, using tactics lightning-fast strikes to pave the way toward the Invisible Hand ship. Anakin took the lead, utilizing his audacious and daring style to draw the attention of the Separatist defenses. As the enemy fighters converged on him, Yoda and Obi-Wan seized the opportunity, capitalizing on the distraction, to launch their own devastating attacks. They swiftly eliminated any enemy fighters in the way, and Ahsoka displayed her own brilliance, identifying a vulnerability in the Separatists' ship's shields. She maneuvered her starfighter with precision, taking advantage of her smaller profile with the ship to navigate through tighter spaces of enemy fire. Ahsoka breached the ship's shields, targeting their systems so the Jedi could enter the hangar bay. And upon landing, all 4 ejected to take out battle droids, surrounding them with ease before coming up with a plan. Anakin and Yoda will head up to where the Chancellor is being held, while Obi-Wan and Ahsoka go kill Grievous. The Jedi all say, "May the Force be with you," and head on their separate ways. Yoda and Anakin, Kenobi and Ahsoka. Yoda and Anakin made their way up to the Chancellor, finding him locked to a chair, looking out at the battle over Coruscant. When Palpatine saw Yoda, his anger was almost visible to the Jedi, but he'd spent years hiding it. He could still do it, even in this moment of annoyance. How had Yoda embraced Anakin like this? What changed all those months ago? What Palpatine didn't know was the moment Yoda heard about Anakin's visions, he knew something had to change. The Jedi were failing Anakin, and so the Grand Master adapted, taking him as a Padawan in the way that had never been done. Now Anakin's trust for Yoda and for the Jedi was stronger than ever. When Anakin had nightmares about Padme, Yoda had offered solutions. Anakin was assured that his child would be born, and Padme would be saved. And as Palpatine was thinking about what happened with these Jedi, Dooku flipped down to confront them. And together, they fought Dooku, and Dooku matched the Jedi's blows with calculated precision, his red lightsaber weaving through the air. His experience was evident, but the Jedi were taking him on 2 versus 1. The three moved with great speed, their lightsabers a blur in this room. Yoda's mastery of the Force would come into play, using his abilities to hurl any object he could find at Dooku, creating distractions for Anakin to enter. And Anakin now, driven by his newfound emotion, his control over his passionate nature, would channel determination into his attacks, pressing the offensive, pushing Dooku back with a relentless onslaught. Anakin's power, combined with his new abilities to control it, making him more devastating in this fight. The clash of sabers would reverberate through the ship's corridors, each strike accompanied by the hum of their blades. The combatants moved with great speed again, jumping up the stairs, fighting each other, and then despite Dooku's formidable skills, the combined might of Yoda and Anakin would prove to be overwhelming for him. The Jedi's teamwork and determination began to really wear down the Sith Lord's defenses. Originally, Sidious was hoping that Obi-Wan would be here instead of Yoda, but with Yoda here, Dooku could not separate them, and their synchronized attacks pressured to leave Dooku with fewer opportunities to counter. In a final climactic moment of the duel, Yoda and Anakin leapt together, launching a coordinated assault, their lightsabers moving together, and Dooku, momentarily caught off guard, found himself unable to defend against it. Yoda went high as Anakin went for his legs, and Dooku crumbled under it. With a final powerful strike, Anakin disarmed the Sith Lord, sending his lightsaber flying along with his right hand. The Sith Lord staggered backwards, his once confident demeanor replaced by a look of defeat as he fell to his knees without his right hand. Anakin let Dooku's lightsaber fall to the ground as he told him he was under arrest. And from the side, Palpatine urged Anakin to kill him now. "He's too dangerous to be left alive," the Chancellor says. For a moment, Anakin considered it. Then he looks to Yoda, who looked at Anakin with proud eyes. And Anakin put away his lightsaber as he prepared to arrest Dooku. For Palpatine, this was bad. His options now were limited. Go with the Jedi, pray Dooku doesn't expose him, and execute Order 66 without a true apprentice. Or, with his mind, Palpatine spun Dooku's lightsaber while simultaneously unlocking his own restraints, and in one motion, he ignited the saber, pulled it through Dooku's chest, killing him, and standing up as the lightsaber reached his hand. In the next second, he blasted Anakin into the wall with lightning and began relentlessly swinging at Yoda. Anakin got to his feet, completely taken aback by what just happened. As he looked forward, he saw Palpatine aggressively swinging at Yoda. Yoda barely got out his lightsaber to block the first swing, but he too was taken by surprise. Palpatine had the complete upper hand, and Yoda never had a chance. Anakin watched as Palpatine knocked Yoda's saber away, then grabbed him with the Force, then spun at insane speed to cut down Yoda in one swift move. Anakin didn't know what to do. This was the Chancellor of the Republic, and he just killed his master. The Chancellor, who had just shot him with lightning, and now wielded a red blade. He was a Sith. He was the Sith. Palpatine erupted into crazy laughter as he felt the darkness in Anakin begin to grow. Then, Palpatine said Yoda's usefulness had ended. Anakin needed a new master, one who could teach him to save Padme from certain death. Anakin looked to the ground. In a moment of vulnerability, he thought, maybe Palpatine was right. Maybe the Jedi would fail to keep her alive. No, his master had just been cut down by the Sith. And Anakin looked back up, a determined look in his eyes, and he heard the ghost of Yoda say, "Destroy the Sith. Bring balance to the Force." Anakin replied, saying, "I will try." To which Yoda said, "Do or do not. There is no try." Anakin smirked, remembering his master, and ignited his blue lightsaber before charging at Palpatine. The Sith Lord's smile shifted into disgust as he prepared for battle. The two locked blades, the hue of their lightsabers shining a blue glow onto Anakin and a red glow onto Sidious. With speed that could only be matched by the best of the best, the two continued their battle through the room. The battle outside now shook the ship and sent Anakin stumbling away from Sidious. After a moment, though, he leapt back into the air, swinging at the Sith Lord's head as he flipped to the other side. Anakin locked blades with Sidious again, then broke it off as the two continued to swing at each other, blocking every single blow. Sidious smiled as he slid past Anakin, getting behind him for a lethal strike, but Anakin executed his best move, spinning around while blocking the strike behind his back. Catching Sidious off guard, he struck lightsabers a few more times before Anakin pushed him to the ground with the Force. As Sidious tried to recover, Anakin threw his own lightsaber at the Sith. Sidious blocked it and swung at Anakin, but Anakin stopped the blade with the Force, kicked Sidious in the knee, then pulled both sabers into his hands, holding them across Sidious's neck. He had won, and Anakin stood above him now, wondering whether to kill or arrest him. The Jedi way may be to arrest him, but he was too dangerous to be left alive. And he saw blue lightning spark in Sidious's hands. That was the confirmation Anakin needed. With a swift cut, Sidious's head rolled to the ground, and his body lay next to Yoda and Dooku. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka entered a moment later after destroying General Grievous to see this horrific scene. Anakin said he would explain momentarily, but for now, they must head to the escape pods. He grabbed Yoda's body, and together they ejected an escape pod back to Coruscant. In the pod, a distraught Anakin explained what had happened with Dooku, then with Yoda, then with Palpatine. The three Jedi put the pieces together of the entire war, making sense of it. And though it was tough to accept, the Jedi Council understood what had happened aboard the Invisible Hand, and they determined it was best to tell the Senate that Dooku had killed the Chancellor. Yoda was gone, but in his sacrifice, the Sith, along with Grievous, were wiped out. The Separatists began to crumble from the inside, with different people vying for leadership, and it eventually became such a mess, the Republic had no problem liberating worlds and capturing or killing the Separatist leaders, forcing them to shut down the droids. In just a few short months, the Republic would have wiped out the Separatists and brought peace. Anakin Skywalker was made a Jedi Master and put on the Jedi Council. Mace Windu became the new Grand Master of the Order, and Mon Mothma became the new Chancellor of the Republic. Padme would give a healthy birth to two twins, Luke and Leia, and the children would be trained while being allowed to live with their mother. After decades of peace, Anakin would become Grand Master of the Order, with Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Luke, and Leia by his side on the Jedi Council. And that's where our story ends today. I wanted to do a contrast of Anakin and Yoda becoming Master and Apprentice instead of Anakin and Sidious to see how that would play out, and this is where that story took me. So I do hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought of it. Give me other ideas for fan fictions. Check out my reaction to the Ahsoka trailer today. It was a great trailer. I'm so excited for that show. Overall, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.